This DA, Fulton County, Georgia, says, no, we can get this done before the election.
Just to appeal the verdict
Donald Trump claims to have nearly $500 million he needs to cover the bond in his New York civil fraud case, but whether he will actually pay that by the Monday deadline is still up in the air.
And happy Friday, and welcome to The Deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. It is Friday, March 22nd, 2024, and we're so happy you decided to take some time to join us. As always, Val Atkinson is here. Hey, Val.
Hello, Ed.
Well, you know, Val, you forgot to get the memo. You were supposed to wear Carolina blue.
I know.
So
been wearing it all week.
so just because you didn't, I had to make sure I had mine on so everybody could see that we all have allegiance to the Tar Heels. Because Val, if you remember the last show, Val finally admitted that his allegiance really was squarely with the Tar Heels. So. But we'll talk about March Madness.
We'll talk about that later.
A little bit later. But Val, there's so much to talk about. And we have to start with the trials of Donald Trump. And I do literally mean trials. Not trials and tribulations, but actual legal cases for Donald Trump. Finally, the piper is being asked to be paid, so to speak. He has to come up with some money in New York. And so let's start there. He's been having trouble getting a bond to underwrite all the money that he owes in the state of New York. I'm hoping that Letitia James starts grabbing some of his property. It'd be nice to grab Trump Towers and make it Val Atkinson Towers. But
there you go.
So let's start there, Val, in New York. With the state has found the Trump organization guilty of fraud, and now they got to pay. So what's going to happen with that? Is he ever going to pay a dime, or is there a way for him to get out of this?
Well, they are working feverishly trying to find a way to get him out of this. I think we may be seeing what a lot of folks call or term accountability on the part of Donald Trump once in his life here. I think it may start small. It may start there in New York. It could spread all the way to Mar-a-Lago in Florida. But I think we are going to see, unless someone or something steps up and comes up with $500 million on his behalf, we're going to start seeing him be accountable. And that will be the first time in his life that he won't be able to wiggle out of it or put somebody else up as a scapegoat, do all of the crazy things that he's done to avoid accountability all of his life. And I think that'll be solace for a lot of people who wanted nothing more than to make this one man in America accountable for his misdeeds. I think we'll see that happening sooner rather than later. Monday is the big day. It's already started here. And I think what we're going to see is Donald Trump being given a large no by just about everybody. The next shoe to drop or to fall would be the RNC saying definitely no. If they say definitely no, you can't use all of our money, we won't be able to fund any campaigns out there. And you lose everything. You'll lose in the presidential election. We'll lose the House. The Democrats will gain more seats in the Senate. We'll lose gubernatorial races and legislative races, and it'll all be just to save Donald Trump's brand. And it's not worth it. So we're going to see a lot of his properties liquidated because he doesn't have the cash. He has the worth, but he doesn't have the cash. So the only way he can get cash is to liquidate some of his assets. And that strikes at his brand. That's what he doesn't want. And once his brand is diminished and people can truly say the king has no clothes, Donald Trump becomes a whole different type of person. And he knows that. That's why he's fighting so hard against this. He's fighting so hard not to let that happen, because a great deal, if not most, of his power and his gravitas is based on brand management. He has told the world who he is and gotten a large portion of that world to accept his lie. That's his brand, is great. And he used to talk about being worth 10 or 12 billion dollars. And we found out real quick that that wasn't the case. But I think this is going to prove to be daunting for Trump and all of his supporters.
Yeah, I think so too. And here's the other thing. I was reading through some of the stuff that the judge had written in order, and he has to report also to this special master or somebody who's overseeing everything, and it's pretty extensive. I mean, if he tries to move any money, even if his sons try to move money, if somebody tries to donate him money, if he makes a large deposit or a large withdrawal, he has to account for all that, and somebody can oversee that and see all of that. I'm pretty sure that's wrangling him more than anything else. That there's somebody over his shoulder who actually knows how much money he has or doesn't have. In reality, he doesn't have much money, right? And even some of those properties, I think we're going to find out he doesn't own those either. That he's got naming rights or some other nonsense, attached to it, and it's not actually a Trump-owned property. Maybe Mar-a-Lago is, but he tried to say that was worth several $billion, and then the judge was like, "No, that's probably worth about 10 million or 20 million dollars or whatever," and he was claiming that it was worth $1 billion. But we shall see on that. Let's move to another trial of Trump. Let's look at a clip. This is what's going on in Florida in the documents case, and we'll talk about it. So, Val, Judge Cannon in Florida is kind of weird. She was not qualified to be a judge in the first place. She was a Trump appointee, and she's been trying to shield for Donald Trump. And she's made some curious moves in the past. And one of them, at one point, she was going to allow Donald Trump to see all the evidence, right? See who the witnesses were or whatever. And if you remember the last time we were on, one of the folks who used to work for Donald Trump went ahead and tried to be preemptive and went ahead and went on CNN to say exactly what happened, that he was instructed to wipe off the cameras and that, Walt Nato was getting rid of evidence, so that kind of thing. But Judge Cannon still remains on the case, and she's still slow walking it. And we see that Jack Smith is having to go through all kind of kabuki to try to keep this trial moving. Here's the question. Is that trial ever going to be heard, or is Judge Cannon going to end up being overruled by the 11th Circuit on some of the shenanigans she's been pulling, because she's helped slow this thing down?
I think the 11th Circuit is going to move in, Ed. She is falling for the bait. And what I call the bait is, a long time ago, we used to say in our time, give them more rope, they'll take more rope, And that's what's happening with Judge Cannon right now. She thinks every step she takes, if the 11th Circuit doesn't step in, if the prosecution doesn't request the 11th Circuit to step in, she thinks she's winning, and that's a go-ahead nod to her to go to the next step. And I think she's going to go to a step too far here. And I think the prosecution is going to ask the 11th Circuit to step in and make some rulings. They were close, they meaning the circuit court, the Court of Appeals. They were close the last time to removing her, to ask her to step down from this case. They were very close, and they didn't do it. And I think that if the prosecution were to ask the 11th Circuit, please step in and do something about this judge who doesn't really have an understanding or respect for the law itself, I think she could be in trouble. Because clearly, as you said, she's done too many things that can be categorized but one way, and that is to help Donald Trump, the person who made her who she is. Mm-hmm. And she's doing it out in the open as though she doesn't care that everybody knows what she's doing. Right. She has no fear at all of that. And so somebody, if we're going to save justice, somebody's going to have to step in. Somebody's going to have to step in and do it quickly. There are people who are going to jail by the dozens every day for 1/10 of what Donald Trump is doing or has done. Mm-hmm. And you can't have a real true justice system and let this kind of thing continue.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to remind you, you're watching The Deal or listening to it on the podcast. I'm your host, Ed Clark. That's Val Atkinson. It's Friday, March 22nd, 2024. And we're going to, wrap this up with Donald Trump. There's a couple other trials. This is what's going on in Georgia. Lord have mercy. Let's watch it and then we'll talk.
Fonnie Willis, DA, Fulton County, Georgia, says, no, we can get this done before the election. Put it up full mass. Wow. Fonnie Willis, Fulton County District Attorney, plans to press ahead with her goal of putting Donald Trump on trial before November, and intends to ask the presiding judge over the Georgia criminal case to schedule a trial date as soon as this summer, according to 3 people familiar with her thinking. Let's keep up those pictures. That's a beautiful thing. This is a reality check for what I believe the defense was trying to do, which is to delay.
So, Val, the last time we talked, Judge McAfee pulled a fast one on us and said that they could drop some charges against Donald Trump. We weren't expecting that at all. We were just waiting to see whether or not Fonnie Willis was going to stay on the trial. So then we come to it, and he says, okay, well, Fonnie can stay, but the special prosecutor has to go. What I think has not been covered enough is that Nathan Wade was qualified to be the special prosecutor because he's the one that went before the grand jury, not Fonnie Willis. He's the one that got the charges through the grand jury. He's the one that's written the briefs. He's the one that's, because if you know anything about how DA offices work, a lot of times the DA is not doing all that. The prosecutors are. She's running the office as the manager. She may go out and make a public statement, but she's not the person that's running the trial. So by getting rid of Nathan Wade, it seems to me that McAfee was saying that, one, he didn't believe or trust Nathan Wade about the relationship, which is different than whether or not he was qualified to be the lead attorney and whether or not there was some quid pro quo going on between Fonnie Willis and Nathan Wade. I still don't know why we even got to know that his junk wasn't working, because he had cancer, and that when they did sleep together, Fonnie decided to end the relationship, and she ended it before he knew about it, yada, yada, yada. I mean, we know way too much. And so, Val, wrap us up here in this segment. What's the comeuppance from this? Will there be a trial in Georgia? Will Fonnie Willis still be around? Will the state of Georgia try to come up with some kangaroo court to get her off of this case? And then Donald Trump gets away, and McAfee does what I think he's trying to do, which is to play both sides of the fence.
There will be a case. Fonnie Willis has already said that she doesn't plan to alter her plans at all. And if they want to get rid of her, come on, bring it on. I mean, she's ready for the fight. That's what everybody was hoping that she would say. If you want to fight, let's do it. And I thought the trial was about Mr. Trump, but you want to make it about me? Let's go. Let's go ahead.
Yeah.
But at some point, we have got to realize in this country that fame and celebrity does not cancel out the law. And that's what Donald Trump has been trying to show difference. Show us that it does cancel the law. So at some point, this is an opportune time to make that happen, is to show them that it doesn't. Now, Fani Willis, as you said, Ed, has to make a decision whether or not she wants to play this game and try to go and get another lead counsel and bring them up to speed. And maybe the trial may come on several months after November, which meaning the election will be over and so forth. She doesn't want that to happen. I think she's doing the right thing. She's in a win-win situation here, Ed, and this is the reason I say that. If she tries to bring the case on, and the Trump organization and the courts keep saying, well, you can't do this, and no, you got to wait on this. Every time they do that, I think he's going to lose thousands and thousands of votes of people saying, hey, I'm tired of this stuff. Everything has got to stop, and everything has got to be in the favor of Donald Trump. I'm tired of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't vote for a guy like that. I just can't do it. And if he does go to trial before November, all of that negative publicity is going to turn into negative votes at the polls. He is in a lose-lose situation. I think Fani Willis is in a win-win situation. We, the viewing public, we've just got to exercise some patience and watch this thing unfold. I think Fani Willis is in a great position to mete out justice that has been earned by Mr. Donald J. Trump, and I can't wait to see it happen.
Well, you know, we've been waiting for the orange jumpsuit. We did get the mugshot, but
yeah,
but we haven't seen him in jail yet. We're about to see him probably file another bankruptcy though, to try to circumvent what's going on in New York, but I don't think he can. Hey, I hear some music in my ears, so that means we need to take a break. When we come back, we want to talk about the Republicans. There's 3 stories that have to do with the Republicans just today alone that are significant stories. So stay right there. We'll be right back after this message.
Look, I'm not a young guy. That's no secret. But here's the deal. I understand how to get things done for the American people. I led the country through the COVID crisis. Today, we have the strongest economy in the world. I passed a law that lowers prescription drug prices, caps insulin at $35 a month for seniors. For 4 years, Donald Trump tried to pass an infrastructure law, and he failed. I got it done. Now we're rebuilding America. I passed the biggest law in history to combat climate change because our future depends on it. Donald Trump took away the freedom of women to choose. I'm determined to make Roe v. Wade the law of the land again. Donald Trump believes the job of the president is to take care of Donald Trump. I believe the job of the president is to fight for you, the American people, and that's what I'm doing. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Can we do one more take?
Look, I'm very young, energetic, and handsome. What the hell am I doing this for?
Thank you for staying with us. I'm Caroline Dade.
And I'm Amber Noggle. Tonight, we are following a developing story after one of Wisconsin's congressmen announced he's resigning.
Republican Mike Gallagher says he'll leave the U.S. House of Representatives next month. That means Republicans will only have a 1-vote majority.
New at 4, political reporter Darielle Fair has you covered on why Gallagher says he's stepping down.
Wisconsin Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher represents the 8th congressional district. That's up near Green Bay. Gallagher confirmed last month he would not be seeking re-election. Now he says he's leaving Congress even earlier. Gallagher's term was set to end next January, but in a statement he released today, he said, quote, "After conversations with my family, I have made the decision to resign from my position effective April 19, 2024. Going on to say he was working with Republican leadership in the House to appoint a new chair to serve on the Chinese Communist Party subcommittee. Gallagher's decision to vacate his seat is yet another blow to House Speaker Mike Johnson, further narrowing majorities for the GOP conference in the House. Republican Representative Ken Burke of Colorado is set to leave Congress this week, cutting the GOP's majority down to 218 seats, with the Democratic caucus maintaining its 213 seats. Once Gallagher leaves, it will bring that number down to 217, meaning Republicans would have just one deciding.
And welcome back to our second segment of the deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. We're here on a Friday today, in the middle of March Madness. Again, Val did not get the memo. It's Carolina Blue. But it's okay. It's okay. We'll talk about that in the final segment of the deal. Coming back in, Val, we saw a clip of Representative Gallagher, who's another Republican who's resigning. That means their majority is even slimmer. And to me, I think it's an act of cowardice by these Republicans. And let me tell you why. Instead of standing up to Donald Trump, they're just running away. And they know that they're going to get to a point where there's not going to be any room at all for any error, for any Republican to be out of line on anything. We already seen that they can't pass any meaningful legislation. They've been spending time on stuff like showing naked pictures of Hunter Biden, you know, in the oversight committee. And then they had their fiasco this week of a supposed impeachment hearing, where we know good and damn well they weren't about to impeach Joe Biden. And Representative Moskowitz from Florida made fools out of him. He said, "You know what? I'm gonna introduce a motion here to impeach Joe Biden." He says, "Who's with me?" and Gomer Powell, Comer from Kentucky sat there like a knot on a log, knowing good and damn well that he didn't have anything to impeach Joe Biden. And then on top of that, all the witnesses that came over there didn't have anything to say about impeachable offenses. So let's start there, Val. Another Republican resigns. So it is entirely possible that before too long, Hakeem Jeffries could be the speaker. You never know, because the knock-on story to this is that they approved a $1.2 trillion spending bill, which is the same thing that got McCarthy kicked out. So Johnson okay with cutting deals with Democrats, but McCarthy wasn't? That, to me, tells me the Republicans are in complete disarray. So talk to me about the hypocrisy of the Republicans and exactly where they stand at this point with those two things, the spending bill and then another Republican resigning.
Well, let's take the Republican resigning first, Ed. The writing is on the wall. It is my position that my frat brother, Hakeem Jeffries, a great member of the fraternity Kappa Alpha Psi, let me get that in, will become Speaker of the House, will become the Speaker of the House of Representatives for the United States of America. I'm not going to go so far as to say exactly when this will happen, but I'll tell you what, it will happen sooner than later. I can say that much. So keep your ear to the ground and your eyes on the prize, folks. It's going to happen. We're going to have an African-American Speaker of the House very, very soon. At any rate, we're just waiting and holding out cards close to the vest right now. But I think that a lot of Republicans are seeing things one by one that are chopping them off of the team. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Let's take Gallagher for an example. There is a rumor going around that he was asking questions of his staff. What would have happened if he would have taken $1 million of his own money to put into his campaign. And he was talked into not doing that by the RNC and rather put the money in the RNC and let them fund it back to his campaign. And now that same $1 million could be used to give to Donald Trump to save his rear end. So in effect, Gallagher would have been giving money directly to Donald Trump to pay his lawyer bills for craziness. And none of the money would have gone to Gallagher to fund his campaign for re-election. That's just a hypothesis, okay? I'm not saying that happened, okay? I'm saying people are seeing things like that. And they're saying, wait a minute, how far will we go here? How much do we have to take before we get to the point that is our personal breaking point that we can't go to that position? That is a bridge too far for us. I can't do it. And you're going to find more and more Republicans who are meeting their bridge too far and saying, hey, I'm off. I'm out of here. And more people are going to be saying, look, there was life before Donald Trump. I didn't come here born with the name of Donald Trump on my lips. I was well in school and in my professional life before I knew who Donald Trump was. How did I live before I knew that? Is there any life that can be lived after Donald Trump has met his demise? So let's rethink this whole thing, Mr. Republican. A lot of Republicans are going to start saying that, Ed, and they're going to be saying it out loud. And once they start saying it out loud, other Republicans are going to hear them, and they're going to make similar decisions. And it will be a domino effect that won't be able to be stopped.
Yeah. Again, I want to remind you, you're listening to or watching The Deal. That's Val Atkinson, and we're talking about the Republicans, and in particular, I know I asked you a question about how Mike Johnson survives after approving the $1.2 trillion spending bill to extend it. But I'm going to get back to that. But you made me think about the fact that Laura Trump, who's from North Carolina, which is where we are right now, is basically running the RNC for her father-in-law. And the whole Gallagher money sleight of hand that Laura Trump and Donald Trump are trying to pull is that any money that comes into the RNC belongs to the RNC. And then if they fund your campaign, they do. If they don't, they don't. And they'll only fund people who are loyal enough to Donald Trump in the end, right? It's a complete takeover in MAGAization. It's made up a word. MAGAization of the Republican Party, that to be a true Republican, you have to be MAGA. Val, again, I want to get back to Mike Johnson and what his future is like, but that just smacks of fascism, Mussolini kind of deal, or nay, I say Adolf Hitler, where you have to have unquestioned loyalty to the leader. I hate to go that far, but are we just looking at a person who's just bound and determined to at least spend some part of his life as a dictator? Is that what we're looking at?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's because he doesn't know how to do anything else, Ed. You look at Donald Trump's professional career, it's all been dictatorship. His proprietorship with his properties and his real estate and everything. He's never been part of an organization where there was a linear structure, where there were people that were his equals, people below him, and people above him within the organization. And there were rules that govern not only the organization, but the behavior of everyone within that organization. He's never been a part of anything like that. Everything he's been a part of since he reached the age of maturity, he was in charge. The only time he's ever been close to anything like that was during the lifespan of his dad, when he and his dad lived together. And his dad ran things. But after that, he has never been in a situation where he didn't run everything. And everybody bowed down to him. So he's trying to get the United States of America to become a part of what he's become accustomed to. And there are people who hate Democrats and hate liberalism and hate people of color so much that they are willing to give that to Donald Trump to keep the aforementioned from maintaining or gaining power.
Keep you Negroes in place. So
Before
before we run out of time, then Mike Johnson. Now he's been seen again at events. He was recently at an event about reversing gayness. Well, he's the Speaker of the House, but Donald Trump was president. So should we be surprised? You've already made your prediction that your brother Hakeem Jeffries will eventually end up being Speaker. But what's the future for Mike Johnson? Because he was a backbencher, nobody knew, and just out there, and he was the last man standing because everybody hated Jim Jordan, they hated McCarthy. He wasn't hated and loathed yet. Is his future to be hated and loathed as much as all the rest of them?
I'll answer your question with a question, Ed. Tell me what happened to the last 3 speakers of the House, save Nancy Pelosi. Where are they?
They're at home.
You don't even know.
Yeah.
You can't even say. And the same thing that happened to Boehner and all the rest of them, the same thing is going to happen to Mr. Johnson. He will slip into oblivion. Everybody will know him as the speaker that time under those conditions. A lot of people will forget his name. He will go down as a nothing. It'll be a big nothing burger. They won't know Johnson. As you said, and I think you're absolutely right, he was nothing before he took on the mantle of being speaker. What was he? Who was he? Who knew him? What did he do? He'll revert back to that same status.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. Well, you know, the intriguing thing, you mentioned Boehner. He's selling marijuana now.
Yeah.
And then Cantor, he couldn't even get to be speaker. They didn't want him. And you're right, McCarthy is, he has no future in the Republican Party. And the only speaker that came out to the good is Nancy Pelosi. Right?
That's right.
She got stuff done. She wielded a gavel. She made faces behind Donald Trump during the State of the Union. And she's the only person that made out to the good being speaker. And then if you go back even further with the Republicans, Denny Hastert is in jail for molesting boys when he was a wrestling coach.
Mm-hmm.
So you rattle off the name of all the Republican speakers. They're either in Bakersfield, California, I don't know, selling used cars or something,
Right.
like McCarthy. And even if he worked at a used car dealership, he would be as recognized as he should be, right? Not at all. And Mr. Johnson, poor fella, I guess he's going to continue to pray the gay away and be monitored by his son so he doesn't watch porn. Those are just weird stories to me about Mike Johnson. And, I guess that's where he's going to be. Look, I hear some music in my ear. So that means we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll finish up. We're going to talk about the possibility of the Duke Blue Devils being out in the first round by Vermont. So hopefully that'll happen. But because we're going for the Tar Heels and the Wolfpack. So stay right there. We'll be right back after this message.
Starting a business, there is no way possible that you can stay on top of the financials, take care of the marketing, perform the work. You need a competent team that can help you to stay on top of your financial situation. My local CFO is it.
My local CFO fits a niche that's in today's small business climate. People need good accounting, but they don't need full-time accountants.
My local CFO, financial solutions for a stronger future.
An influential committee within the House Republican Conference is recommending an increase in the Social Security retirement age.
KDK political editor John Delano reports this is getting strong pushback from some.
Social Security is in trouble. In less than 10 years, 2033, beneficiaries will take a cut, receiving about 75 to 80% of current monthly benefits.
Social Security needs to be reformed, and the sooner the better.
Everyone agrees on that, but how to reform it is hotly debated. On Wednesday, the Republican Study Committee, which represents nearly 80% of House Republicans.
And welcome back to our third and final segment of The Deal. I'm your host, Ed Clark. It is Friday, March 22nd, 2024. We're glad you stopped in to be with us. Val, I've been traveling a lot, so we've been a little erratic on what days we come on, so I appreciate folks still tuning in and listening. Every time I look at the subscriber numbers, we're building more people, and that's the best way to do it. So if you're listening, just go ahead and subscribe. That way you don't have to worry about when we come on. It'll just pop up in your email or your feed, and there's a ton of different places you can go to subscribe, and we do appreciate it. Val, when we came back in, I played a clip about the Republicans talking about raising the retirement age. Now you're already retired, so you don't care. I'm trying to get there, and they want this. I heard them say, "Oh well, because people are living longer, where they're blah blah blah." But when I look at the actuarial tables on a person like me, working to 70 is not a good proposition because we have all kind of issues, high blood pressure, diabetes, different things, right? We just don't live as long, or we get killed by the cops, whatever, right? We just don't live as long. So that's problematic for me. They also are talking about some kind of way taking Medicare and making it a premium-based service. So let's backtrack. Every friggin' country in the world has some sort of either universal health care or some subsidized health care. People do not worry about going to the doctor. I will tell you one story before I ask my question. I had a coworker when I worked for a Swedish company. He was here in North Carolina. He had a medical condition. I took him over to Duke Raleigh Hospital, and they asked for his insurance. And he says, "I'm from Sweden." And they look at him, they were like, and? He was like, "I don't know what you mean by insurance. Here's my national health card that covers everything." So they waited and waited, and they didn't know what to do. And finally, it was determined, the Swedish people got so upset at the people at Raleigh Duke Hospital that it's like, we'll just fly him back to Sweden. And they paid for it, for him to go back to Sweden. And when he got there, he found out he had a condition that needed surgery right away. And he had the surgery, and there was no question and no money exchanged. The other thing about my friend Martin is he had a PhD in electrical engineering, which he did not pay for, because when he got his bachelor's degree in engineering and his master's and then his PhD, education in Sweden does not require you to pay tuition, even up to a terminal degree. So let's start with the easy answer, because I know the answer to this, Val. Why the hell do we insist on the private sector being involved in everything, especially healthcare, and now in encroaching into retirement, and maybe everybody having a 401k that's at the mercy and whims of people's trading stock on Wall Street?
You've got to first understand the purpose of our existence, Ed. And it is not to have some great quality of life existence. It's not to pursue happiness and that kind of thing. It's to make money. That's why America exists as it does today. We are a capitalistic, let me put predatory thing in front of that. We are a predatory capitalistic country. That is numero uno in terms of what we are about. Everything else evolves around that. Or better said, that is the filter that everything else must go through. It has to go through that filter. So that means healthcare, that means education, the two things that you've cited. It means housing. It means public safety. It means the military. It means everything has to go through that filter. And it's out there, and the people who play the game best are the people who run it, and they are the people on Wall Street. They're the people who make the rules in Congress. They make the rules in the White House. They rule on the rules in the courts. All of them are playing this game of predatory capitalism. It's all about that. If you ever want to know why somebody did what, turn the page to that issue that explains what predatory capitalism is. That's all we're about, Ed. We're about making money. And we used to think, long time ago, that if you allow Americans to make enough money, they could take home and their quality of life will improve because they can take more and longer vacations. They can send their kids to the best schools in the land. They can buy a house in a neighborhood that they choose. They can do anything they want that they have desired by watching this tube called TV and seeing people live the great life. They can have all of those things if they would just work hard and sacrifice and be an integral part of this thing called predatory capitalism. Mm-hmm. That's where we are. That's who we are. And there's no need in comparing us with anybody else, because a lot of those countries, especially in Scandinavia and in the EU in general, that put quality of life above the number of dollars or euros that you got in your pocket, they are really living a little better than we are. You look at the age expectancy in Europe, you look at it in Japan, you even look at it in China and a lot of other places around the world, Ed, and they outlive us. We're supposed to be noted for having some of the best medical facilities, people fly in from all over the world to get certain kind of special treatments that they could not get in their hometown or their home country or whatever. But you know what you got to bring with you? You got to bring money, because that's what we're about. We're not about anything else but that money. If you got the money, we'll treat you, we'll give you this great service, and you can go back home and live a little longer, you know? But until we change that, we can expect nothing but more of the same, Ed, from our lawmakers and from our financiers and from the people that run this form of capitalism that we got. We can expect nothing else but the same, because they're about the business of making money, keeping the money that they got and making more, which equates to power. That's what they really want. Money is just a way of quantifying how much power do you have, or how much power will we allow you to exert. And the way we keep score on that is that, let me see your bank, how much money you got. Yeah. Can you buy this? Can you do that? Can you make this happen? Can you donate over here? If you can do that, then I'll put you high on the scale. Once we realize what we are really about, then a lot of those things, the question has already been answered. And even though the answer is something you don't like, you don't get as upset, because you understand what's going on. And it's no need in pretending and trying to do things that's not going to happen. I'll tell you, people in power are not going to raise the contribution level so that people that are making millions of dollars a year are paying more into Social Security. and those kind of things. That's not going to happen while you got the
Mhm.
form of government that you do. Me and you can talk about it, in a abject kind of a way, but it's nothing going to happen about that. That's the best answer to Social Security and Medicare. You're talking about going broke. Suppose there was no cap on Social Security, on contribution. The last time I looked at it, said it was 7.17%. Suppose it was nothing at all. Guys like Bezos and people like that would be putting in so much money, Social Security would have no problem.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, little guys like you and I could be sitting back, and instead of us paying 7.71% or whatever, we may only be paying 2%.
Right. Yeah. Spread it across to everybody.
Right. We may only be paying 2%. And then you take that other 5% that you used to pay and put it in the stock market. That's what they're trying to sell you to do anyway.
Yeah.
Why can't you do that? Oh, no, you can't do that because you're taking money away from people who work hard to earn it. Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
How do you earn money? Tell me how you earn money when you put it in Wall Street and you go play golf and you come back and you got another 20 or 30 million dollars on the upside. How did you earn that?
Yeah.
What did you do to earn that?
Yeah.
Concentrating on the word earn. Don't give me this earn stuff. You took advantage of the system.
Especially if you earned it from
anything.
especially if you earned it from shorting a stock or
right.
betting on a commodity going down or whatever, right? Because a lot of people derivatives, right? Yeah, and we know that that's a whole bunch of malarkey. Hey Val, before we run out of time, because I don't want to get your blood pressure up, because I know that I know one thing we both have in common. We think a lot of this is bullshit. And we've talked about how Wall Street works. Most people don't know. Before we run out of time, though, right before we started recording, there was a major explosion in Moscow. Let's take a look at a clip, and then we'll talk about it real quick.
Oh, we want to turn now to some other breaking news overseas, and this is shocking. Russian state media is reporting a shooting, some kind of shooting, followed by an explosion occurred at Crocus City. That's a major concert and events hall, a huge modern complex on the outskirts of Moscow. People in camouflage, at least 3 of them, they burst into the ground floor of the Crocus City Hall during a concert and opened fire with automatic weapons. Most of the building is now engulfed in flames. This is a major attack. The roof of that place, like think Madison Square Garden, think or think something much more modern even. Think SoFi Stadium or something like that in Los Angeles. The roof is collapsed. That's what's going on in Moscow right now.
So, Val, Ukraine still doesn't have a commitment for funding from the United States. Just real quick, if explosions are happening in Russia, I've heard that they've lost nearly 1 million people in this conflict with Ukraine. Russia is a big country physically, but in terms of actual people, it's not. They're down to maybe 140, 50 million people, where we have 340, 50 million people. What is the deal with, if they can go into downtown Moscow and blow up a venue full of people and kill 40 people, is Russia going to ever come out the other end of this as victors? And Putin just supposedly won his re-election for another 6-year term. Where does Russia stand in the world after this?
Well, I think Putin thinks that Russia is in a real good place because he knows that the last thing that the West wants is a war, a full-blown, all-out war where there are no winners, because we lose everything, they lose everything. And the world, the species that we belong to, Homo sapien, has moved so far away from the normalization of things in terms of us depending upon Mother Earth to survive. We've moved so far away from that once you interrupt the inventory system and the delivery systems and the power grids and that kind of thing, hundreds of millions and billions of people are going to die because we can't do it. So nobody wants that. Okay. So a lot of people are depending upon, okay, let's keep on doing what we're doing. You mentioned 1 million people that the Russians may have lost. They're used to losing that kind of number of people. A number that a lot of people that study history know, but other people don't, is that during World War II, we in the United States lost about 445,000 troops. It's a lot of people. 445,000 troops. You know how many Russians lost? How many people the Russians lost? 26 million. 26 million compared to 445,000.
Wow.
And they are used to that kind of thing. And if they lose 2 or 3 million, they keep on walking. If we lose 3 or 4 million people, I don't know what would happen. We may have to stop and start all over again.
We would have a collapse. Well, I guess we did. I guess we did from COVID. You know.
Yeah. But if we lost to that war, but Russia right now is pinning its hopes and dreams on the hope that the United States will continue to talk and do nothing about funding Ukraine. And Ukraine can't survive without the funding that they are expecting and hoping to get from the United States of America.
Yeah. You know, there's 2 other international stories, and I won't go into them in detail. I'm going to hold those over to the next time we talk, because there's still no ceasefire in Gaza. There was a UN resolution on the table, but Russia and China vetoed it. I'm not sure if it was strong enough anyway. That Israel, my opinion is that they need to get out of Gaza. That they have extracted everything they can in terms of retribution, and they are not judge, jury, and executioner. 30,000+ people have died in Gaza, and the whole place is torn to asunder. I know they say they want to go after Hamas and get rid of them. They may get rid of the people, but they won't get rid of the sentiment, right? Because if you go in and completely obliterate these people, they're going to hate you forever.
Right.
So are you expecting they're going to love you after this? I don't think so. And then the other thing that we need to deal with the next time we're on Val is Haiti. It's in our hemisphere, and it gets little attention until something bad happens, like a earthquake or like this unrest that's going on there. I don't know how you quell the problem in Haiti, but you know what? We're partially responsible for it, because all those years where we supported the elite there and caused instability so the country couldn't function. I'll just leave that at that, and we'll talk about that next time. The last thing I want to cover, Val, is again, our hope that the Tar Heels make it to the Final Four along with NC State, and that Duke is at home in Durham, able to watch all the festivities. So this is the first year I did not fill out a bracket. I didn't fill out one at all, because I always feel like I'm jinxing the Tar Heels when I fill out a bracket. So I'm gonna ask you right now for a prediction based on what you've seen so far. NC State played out of their minds the other night. The Tar Heels played, I think, underwhelmingly to me and seemed very vulnerable and could exit against Michigan State. The Dukies, by the time people start to see this, will be in the middle of playing Vermont, because we're recording it right before that game starts. Give me your prediction for what it's going to look like on Sunday, at least by the end of the weekend. What do you got?
I got Houston playing, winning against Texas A&M, and Duke winning against Wisconsin, so that Duke plays Houston in the 16, and that'll be the end of the Dukies. I got North Carolina State University winning last night over Oakland, they got them moving on to the 16 to play Florida. And I think that will be the end of the North Carolina State University Wolfpack. As far as the UNC Tar Heels are concerned, I am putting in a request to eliminate them and take them out of the whole series. But since that's not going to happen, they're going to let them play anyway. I got them beating Michigan State in their next game. I got Alabama sneaking by St. Mary's, and I'm not so sure about that.
Okay.
And even if they do, I got UNC winning that game in the 16. And moving on to the what I call the Great Eight. Some people call it the Elite Eight. Down at the bottom of the bracket, the winner coming out of there is a surprise. Everybody's picking Arizona to come out of there because they're number 2. They get knocked off in the 16th by a scrappy Baylor team.
Okay.
So Baylor plays UNC in the Elite Eight. UNC wins that and goes on to the Final Four. So I'm with you on that. But they end up playing a team that might win it all. That's the University of Connecticut. They're called UConn. And they'll be playing UConn in the Final Four. And Houston and Purdue will be playing on the other side. I have Purdue beating Houston and UConn beating UNC and UConn winning it all. So me and Barack Obama have the same.
Well, I hate to say that. You're right. Right now, I don't see anybody beating UConn, and I just really don't. Like I said, I don't know if UNC was sandbagging it yesterday for the first half against manned team that had 7 players and hung around for Wagner, who hung around for most of the game. And then UNC pulled it away at the end. But I think just because Wagner didn't have any energy left. They literally were down to 7 players.
Yeah.
They were exhausted and they were scrappy. But they just didn't have it. So we're going to be back next week. And then we're going to check and see how reliable Val is on his predictions. I suspect that he's right, though. So we'll leave it at that. I see the clock over here, and I also hear some music in my ear. We're going to get out of here, folks. Have a safe and happy weekend. If there's any news that pops up before the next time we plan on being on, which is next weekend, we always do specials and stuff like that. So again, if you subscribe, then you don't have to worry about catching us. You can also catch me sometimes on a show called Connections, a show that Val Atkinson started way back when on Foxy 107, 104. And then you can also hear replays of that show on not every episode, but most episodes on thedealwithedclark.com. Just click on the link for Connections. You can also find the stuff that I write. So in the meantime, as I always ask you to do, go out and do something good for somebody today. And I really do mean that. And we'll see you again next time on another edition of The Deal. Bye.